Every time you speak too soon, you give someone the power to shrink what God is still growing in silence. Your peace, your plans, your healing, they don't belong on public display. Not yet. Not every soul deserves front row access to your becoming. There is a quiet wisdom in the way the earth brings forth life. A seed does not scream its arrival. It does not announce to the world that it has begun to sprout. Beneath the soil, hidden from sight, it opens slowly, unfolding leaf by leaf, inch by inch, in the sacred shelter of darkness. That darkness is not its punishment, it is its protection. Because everything meaningful, everything truly beautiful, begins its life away from eyes that cannot yet understand it. Sacred things grow best in silence, because silence offers the womb where greatness is formed before it is witnessed. But we live in a time where noise is mistaken for worth, where exposure is confused with confidence, where silence is viewed as lack rather than power. We've been conditioned to speak our plans before they've even taken shape, to share our healing before it's fully rooted, to broadcast our blessings before they've found their foundation. We are taught to equate transparency with truth, forgetting that wisdom often chooses what not to reveal. We unwrap our growth in front of people who don't know how to handle fragile things. We plant our dreams in shallow soil and wonder why they don't last. There are seasons where the most powerful thing you can do is stay quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, but because what you are building is too sacred to be spoken about in its infancy. You do not dig up a seed each day to see if it's growing. You let it be. You water it. You protect it. You keep it hidden until it is strong enough to stand on its own. And so it is with your healing, your calling, your transformation. There are pieces of your journey that are meant to be kept close, whispered only in prayer, held gently in the sacred chambers of your own soul until they are ready to be seen. The more sacred the calling, the more silence it requires, because sacred things are not for everyone. They are not to be tossed in conversations with people who cannot comprehend their weight. They are not for casual commentary or careless hands. Some things must be held in the quiet so they can rise in power. And if you speak too soon, if you expose too early, you risk allowing someone else's doubt to seep into your soil. You risk allowing judgment to crush what was still learning to grow. You risk exchanging authenticity for applause, and what grows for performance dies in the light too fast. Silence is not weakness, it is reverence. It is saying, this is too holy for the world to touch just yet. It is a boundary around your becoming. It is the divine pause that gives your soul the space to expand without interference. And while the world may press you to explain, to show, to post, to prove, you are under no obligation to do so. You are not here to satisfy their curiosity. You are here to birth something real, and real things take time. Real things take depth. Real things take silence. You may feel misunderstood in this season. You may feel invisible, but do not confuse invisibility with insignificance. What is hidden is not lost. What is quiet is not weak. The most sacred moments of life, the healing, the forgiveness, the surrender, the rebirth, happen not under spotlights, but under shadows, in the silence of your own spirit, in the stillness where only you and the divine reside. And it is in that stillness that you gain the clarity, the strength, the anointing to rise, not rushed, not raw, but ready. Ready to speak when the time is right, ready to shine when the roots are deep, ready to reveal not just a version of yourself that was half grown, but a masterpiece formed in holy silence. There is a deep loneliness that grows in the heart of someone who has been betrayed by the very ears they trusted. And not all betrayal comes loud. Some come soft, wrapped in a nod, disguised as understanding, cloaked in false empathy. Just because someone listens does not mean they care. Just because someone is quiet when you speak does not mean their silence is safety. You must learn this truth if you are to protect your peace. Every ear that listens is not a friend. There are those who draw close, not because they cherish your voice, but because they hunger for your story. They want to know your next move, not to celebrate it, but to watch it falter. They want to hear your pain, not to help you heal, but to gather ammunition. These are the ones who pretend to care, while secretly hoping to see you stumble. They appear when your light begins to rise, offering sympathy with shallow roots. But when the storm hits, or your truth offends their shadow, they vanish, or worse, they twist your words and spread them where they were never meant to go. You see, some people collect your vulnerability like gossip, not treasure. They feed on your openness to mask their emptiness. They lean in, not to uplift, but to possess. They don't just want to witness your life, they want to claim it, control it, critique it. And when you confuse their curiosity with compassion, you hand over keys to rooms in your soul that were never meant to be unlocked by strangers. You let them sit at tables reserved for the sacred. You give them access to a version of yourself that deserves to be honored, not examined. It's hard, isn't it, to tell the difference between genuine care and disguised control. But you must begin to listen with more than your ears. You must listen with your spirit. Watch how you feel after you've shared. Do you feel safe or do you feel exposed? Do you feel lighter or do you feel watched? A true friend will hold your truth like holy ground. They will not flinch at your pain, nor use your past to hold you hostage. They will keep your name clean even when you are not in the room. They will not ask questions to entertain their boredom. They will ask from a place of love, rooted in presence, wrapped in protection. And you, beautiful soul, trusting heart, you must learn the difference between being heard and being held, between being listened to and being understood. You do not owe your story to everyone who asks for it. You do not need to explain yourself to be valid. You do not need to open your heart in hopes that someone might love what they find. You must understand the value of your own truth before someone else assigns it a price. Because when you speak without discernment, you expose the most tender parts of yourself to weather they were not built to survive. Hold your words like seeds. Know where to plant them. Not every field will nurture what you're trying to grow. Some will poison it. Some will trample it. Some will pretend to tend it only to steal from it when you look away. But there are gardens, people, who will cover your secrets with prayer, who will shelter your fears in stillness, who will speak life into the places that feel like death. And those are the ears worthy of your voice. Until then, practice restraint. Practice listening more than you speak. Practice sitting with your own truth before offering it to others. Because once your words leave your mouth, they no longer belong solely to you. They become vulnerable to interpretation, manipulation, dilution, and not every listener is an ally. Not every smile is sincere. Not every shoulder is strong enough to carry your story. In a world hungry for access, there is power in discretion, power in keeping parts of yourself known only to you and the divine, power in whispering your plans to the soil and watching them rise in silence. Let them see the fruit when it's time, not the planting, not the process, not the prayers you cried when no one else was looking. Let them wonder, let them guess, let them miss the details. Because when your peace becomes more important than their praise, you will stop giving away your voice to anyone who simply knows how to listen. There is something sacred about a dream, especially one that comes to you in silence, wrapped in longing, touched by fire. A dream is not just an idea, it is a divine whisper placed in your soul, a vision only your spirit can truly understand. And because it is sacred, it must be protected. Not shared carelessly, not dragged into the marketplace of opinion for judgment and approval. Because once a dream is placed in your heart, it belongs first to you and second only to the God who gave it. It is not for everyone's commentary. It is not for public vote. But we are taught far too often to expose what is precious before it's ready. We're encouraged to put it out there, to build in public, to get feedback. And sometimes that's wise, but not always. Not in the early stages. Not when your dream is still fragile, still forming, still dependent on your belief to survive. Because people can only see from the level of their own vision, and if they've never dared to dream beyond survival, they won't understand your desire to build something that stretches toward the stars. Some will try to reduce your vision to something safer, something smaller, something that makes them more comfortable. And if you're not rooted deeply enough in your own why, you'll start editing your dream to fit their understanding. You'll start shrinking what was supposed to stretch you. You'll start dimming what was meant to illuminate your entire life. And before you know it, you've traded destiny for approval, legacy for permission, calling for consensus. A dream should not be handed over like a question. It should be guarded like a flame, because it's not just the dream that needs protecting, it's your faith in it. The dream is vulnerable while it's growing. Like a newborn, it must be swaddled, nourished, and kept warm with vision and belief. Exposing it to the cold hands of skepticism too soon can kill it. It can kill your hope before it ever had the chance to take its first breath. Not because the dream wasn't real, but because you allowed someone without vision to speak over your promise. You must be careful who you let speak into your soil. Not all feedback is fertile. Not all critique is crafted with care. Some people offer advice laced with envy. Others disguise their fear as wisdom. And many are simply too wounded to believe in anything bigger than what they've already known. That's not your burden to carry. Their disbelief does not belong to your dream. You are not selfish for keeping your vision to yourself. You are not arrogant for wanting to protect what is sacred. You are not closed off for guarding your process. You are wise. Because when a tree is first planted, it is not planted in a crowd. It is placed gently in soil, where it is watered quietly, where it is left to grow its roots unseen. It does not perform. It does not ask for applause. It does not beg to be noticed. It just grows. And only once it's strong does it offer shade and fruit. Let your dream be like that. Let it take root in silence. Let it find its strength without the noise of everyone's opinions. Let it stretch in the dark without the pressure to perform. Let it speak first to you and only later, if ever, to the world. Because a dream that is protected in its early days will become powerful in its season. But a dream that is paraded too soon may never survive the storm of doubt it wasn't ready to face. Trust the timing, trust your vision, trust that not everyone needs to understand where you're headed to validate that it's real. Your dream does not need to be liked to be lived. It does not need to be understood to be fulfilled. What it needs is you, faithful, focused, and fiercely protective, because only you can carry the dream through the silence until it's ready to sing its own name into the world. There is a kind of peace that does not live in noise. It does not dwell in constant explanation, does not ask for audience or applause. It does not need validation to feel real. This kind of peace grows where the world cannot reach, where the crowd can't see, where the commentary is muted, where the eyes of others are no longer dictating how you live, how you heal, how you rise. Peace is found in privacy. Not because you are hiding, but because you are protecting the quiet places that still need room to breathe. We live in a time where everything is expected to be shared, displayed, broadcasted. You wake up and the world asks, "What are you doing? What are you feeling? What's next?" And in an effort to keep up, to stay visible, to stay relevant, you start to offer pieces of yourself like currency. You give away your joy before you've even had time to sit in it. You speak your healing before you've even healed. You share your pain while it's still bleeding. And slowly, without realizing it, you start performing your life instead of living it. But real peace, the kind that stills your soul and quiets your thoughts, doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being still. It comes from not needing to explain yourself. Not needing to defend your choices, not needing to manage how other people perceive your becoming. It comes from closing the door, from drawing the curtains, from turning inward instead of outward. Peace says, I don't have to prove anything to be worthy of rest. I don't have to be understood to be whole. Privacy is not the absence of connection. It is the presence of discernment. It is knowing that not every moment needs an audience. That not every emotion needs to be dissected, that not every milestone requires a round of applause. It is understanding that when you keep your sacred moments to yourself, they grow stronger, they take root, they settle deep into the soul before being offered to the world, if ever at all. You learn to become quiet, not because you are afraid, but because you are full of knowing, full of clarity, full of truth that does not require defense. In privacy, you can hear yourself again. You can feel what's real. You can let go of performance and return to authenticity. You can make mistakes without judgment. You can grow without interruption. You can be soft without fearing who will take advantage of your tenderness. There is a power in moving in silence that noise can never replicate. When your energy is no longer scattered, trying to be everywhere and everything for everyone, it gathers. It becomes whole again. Peace begins to rise when you stop inviting the world into rooms that were never meant to be public. Your relationships are not content. Your healing is not entertainment. Your journey is not a storyline for others to dissect. And the more you honor that truth, the more you reclaim your power. Because every time you withhold something from the public that was meant for your own soul, you are telling yourself, I am enough without being seen. I am complete even in the quiet. I do not owe anyone access to what I am still unfolding. In that space, behind the noise, beneath the surface, peace waits. Not peace that comes and goes with people's opinions. Not peace that's fragile and dependent on the next good moment, but peace that holds you steady even when nothing makes sense. Peace that teaches you how to breathe again. Peace that wraps itself around your spirit like a soft cloth and says, you're allowed to rest now. You're allowed to be still. You're allowed to keep something for yourself. There is a sacredness to silence when the heart is still bleeding, a tenderness that cannot be rushed, a depth that cannot be spoken too soon. But too often, we try to fill the silence with words, hoping that if we say it out loud, the pain will make sense. That if we tell enough people what we've been through, maybe it will stop hurting. Maybe it will feel less heavy. Maybe it will disappear altogether. But the truth is this: the mouth can leak what the spirit is still healing. There is a difference between sharing your story and spilling your wound. And sometimes when we haven't sat long enough with our own pain, we speak not to express, but to relieve the pressure, to momentarily escape the ache sitting in our chest. We turn conversations into confessions, not out of readiness, but out of desperation. But what pours out of the mouth too soon often comes tangled, confused, half-baked, laced with triggers we haven't named and emotions we haven't yet faced. And when we speak from that place, we don't offer truth, we offer fragments. And those fragments are easy to mishandle. Healing is not something you talk your way into. You must feel your way through it. You must sit in the quiet discomfort. You must listen to the echoes of what was broken and allow your spirit the time it needs to mend, stitch by invisible stitch. But when we speak too soon, we interrupt that process. We pull at the wound before it's closed. We invite others into a space that's still raw, still sacred, still forming. And the danger is not just in being misunderstood, it's in being altered. When you speak before your spirit is settled, you risk allowing someone else's opinion to shape the meaning of your pain. There are things that need to stay with you and God until they are whole, not hidden, but held, not secret, but sacred. Everything felt doesn't have to be shared. Everything that hurts doesn't have to be explained. There is strength in sitting with your pain until it gives you wisdom, not just words. There is power in waiting until what once made you tremble now makes you stand tall. And then, when you do speak, your voice will carry the weight of someone who knows, not just someone who hurts. We live in a world that rushes healing, that pushes you to move on, that asks you to speak before you've settled. And so we start telling our stories from the middle with trembling voices, seeking understanding that may not come. But some parts of your journey are not meant for public airing. They are meant for internal anchoring. Let your heart wrap itself around the lesson before you teach it. Let your spirit find peace before you preach it. Let the wound become wisdom before it becomes content. The mouth is quick to speak, but the soul needs stillness. There are times you must resist the urge to explain, not because you're ashamed, but because you're still becoming, still learning what it all meant. Still learning who you are now because of it. Still learning how to carry what you couldn't even name before. Give yourself permission to grow in silence, to heal without performance, to grieve without an audience. When your spirit is whole, your words will be clear. They will not be desperate. They will not be defensive. They will not need to convince. They will flow with grace, with authority, with truth that has been lived and embodied, not just spoken too early in search of relief. Because when your spirit leads your mouth, what you speak becomes medicine. But when your wound leads your mouth, what you share becomes vulnerability without structure, open to misunderstanding, misalignment, misuse. So give it time. Let the Spirit lead. Let the silence do its holy work. And speak only when the ache has turned into knowing, when the tears have watered wisdom, when your story has learned how to breathe without breaking open again. We live in a world that is obsessed with visibility. A world that tells you if it isn't seen, it doesn't matter. If it isn't posted, it isn't real. If it isn't applauded, it must not be worth the effort. And so we learn to turn our private battles into public declarations, our healing into hashtags, our pain into performance. But growth, true growth, doesn't ask to be witnessed. It doesn't unfold for attention. It isn't meant to be staged, timed, or sold. Your growth is not meant for performance. It is meant for your transformation. There is something sacred about evolving when no one is watching. Something holy about the unseen struggle, the nights when your soul is stretched and reshaped, the mornings when you rise with trembling strength and choose peace again, the silent moments when you walk away from what used to define you and no one even knows what you just gave up. These are not the parts you show to the world. These are the parts that make you. But the pressure to document every step can distort what should have been your sanctuary. When you grow for eyes, you start editing your journey. You share the breakthrough, but hide the breaking. You show the bloom, but silence the buried seasons. You begin to curate your transformation to make it palatable, presentable, and worthy of applause, and soon the authenticity fades. You begin to perform progress. You say what sounds enlightened but have no time to embody it. You look healed but feel hollow, because performance chases perfection, but growth demands presence. You don't owe your evolution to anyone's expectations. You don't have to prove that you're better, wiser, more disciplined, more aligned. You don't have to let strangers into your becoming just to validate that you're moving forward. You don't have to explain your boundaries, your solitude, your softness. You don't have to justify why you're quiet now, why you're slower now, why you no longer answer every call or engage every conflict. Growth is not about becoming more visible. It's about becoming more true. And truth doesn't need a stage. There are parts of you that will only flourish in private. There are habits that can only be broken in the quiet. There are old wounds that will only close when you stop explaining why they still hurt and start tending to them with your own hands, your own time, your own breath. Not everything needs to be shared before it's finished. Not every insight needs to be announced. Not every step needs to be witnessed. Because when you give yourself permission to grow without performing, you begin to experience freedom. The kind of freedom that comes when your worth is no longer tied to how others see you, when your peace is no longer compromised by how quickly you change, when your story is no longer up for review. You move at your own pace, not one dictated by praise or pressure. You rise when it's time, not when the crowd is watching. You become more you, not more marketable. Growth is sacred. It's messy. It's non-linear. It's full of lessons that only you and the silence will understand. Let it be that way. Let it be slow and strong. Let it be yours. Let it be honest. And let it be free from the weight of performance. Because the most powerful transformations happen in rooms no one sees, in prayers no one hears, in decisions no one applauds. They happen when you choose yourself in quiet ways, over and over, until the choosing becomes your new nature. Let the fruit speak for you. Let your presence speak louder than your posts. Let your energy tell the story of what you've outgrown. Let your silence become a testament to what you no longer need to explain. Let your growth remain yours, whole and holy, unpolished and enough, sacred and unseen, blooming not for the stage, but for your soul.